Wow, that was a double celebration, I guess you can call it. Yeah, that is because I have finally got fed up with the issue I have with my soundboard, which some of you may be familiar with. Usually it's on my iPad, but the sounds that I actually use are across two different screens, so I spend my entire life desperately trying to find them, and it's really annoying. So today I built this with only the sounds that I actually use. The only problem is I'm not totally used to using it, and it also doesn't render on my phone, so I can only use it on my laptop. So I'm not even sure if you can actually hear these. Let me know. And let me know if you know why the sounds don't play on my phone. Yes. You may have noticed I am alone, hopefully not for long. Kedasha will be joining us very soon. And in the meantime, I'll say hello to you all. And I will, let you know what's going on around Scrimba Towers. Who is here? Cloud Tempo Studios, who I think is the person who is going to build a site for their music production company, I think, using Scrimba courses. I may have remembered that completely wrong, something like that. Anyway, let me know. Steve says, hey, yo. Caffeinated Pixels, who I happen to know is another Steve, or Stevie, says salut. Yes, time to learn, indeed. Abdullah Hart, hello Scrimba, hello. Angel is back, hello everyone. Solar tea, wow. What would solar tea taste like? I don't know, I reckon it would be good though. Zaid Marie, back again. Gary Truck says we hear it. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, just need to work on getting it on my phone so it's easier to use. Kendrick says, hi all. And Daniel is back, as well as Denny. You can never have enough Steves, says Steve. You don't get many Leannes. I've known two. I used to work with one. And then I met an estate agent the other day whose name was Leanne. And she seemed really annoyed when I said that my name was also Leanne. I was like, oh, sorry. Love Scarimba, says Bavia. Good to hear. Tom Chant is back again, as is Moses. Woo, woo, woo. While we are waiting, we can do our weekly tradition. If you are new here, please put a bunny rabbit into that chat. And if you've been before, hit me with that tiger. Yes, we'll see how many bunny rabbits and tigers are around today. Woo! Debjit is on the ball with a quintuple, or maybe more, tiger. Scrimba, you guys are doing great work. Keep it up. Ooh, Steve's a bunny rabbit. For those of you who have just joined, you'll notice I'm alone. Do not worry, I have spoken to Kedasha and she is on her way, currently stuck in a meeting. Oh, I closed my, oh no, here it is. No, I don't want that one. Big meetings, yes, but she will be coming along soon. In the meantime, perhaps you could let me know what questions you have for her on the topic of career switching, job hunting, and problem solving. Yeah, and maybe you could drop your tips in the chat for problem solving, because this is something I get asked about a lot. How can I improve my problem solving skills? And I'm like, if you met me in real life, you wouldn't be asking me that question. I'm the last person you would ask. You might ask Michael, who has just dropped in. So yes, how do you approach problem solving? Let me know. Debjit, is the new React course free? Debjit is referring to Bob Ziral's completely new and updated React course, which is dropping tomorrow. Yes. I will now find a link for you to sign up. In answer to your question, yes, it will be free. It's called Learn React for Free, actually, and it's 11 hours long. Yeah, amazing stuff. Where's the form? Landing pages and forms, that's the one I want. And we need the React one. So you can all get an email as soon as it's live. If you are already signed up for Scrimba, then you will get one anyway. But in case you're not, just fill in this form here, which I'm popping into the chat, and then you will get an email. Yeah. Brilliant. Best way to learn React, says George Thomas. Totally. Tony the Tiger. Yeah. 11 hours on Scrimba. It will be fun. Yes, I completely agree. When can we expect Node.js on Scrimba? Well, we need to build the tech for it first, but they're doing that now. And we're hoping to do it in the first quarter of next year. Yeah, that might be Bob as well. So that's exciting. Looking forward to that. Yes, once again, if you are here for Kedasha, which I'm sure most of you are, she is on her way, stuck in a meeting at the moment, but she's coming. Yes. In the meantime, I will let you know what's happening on Scrimba. If you don't know what Scrimba is, I suppose that would be a good place to start. Here it is. It's a website on which you can learn to code. At the moment, just front-end courses, but hoping to expand to back-end, well, and therefore by default full stack next year. Yeah. And tomorrow, excitingly enough, we have a brand new, bang up-to-date React course, which will be dropping. Yes, 11 hours of all the most up-to-date React features. I cannot wait. And another thing we do on Scrimba, along with our courses, is the weekly Web Dev Challenge. Woo, with me and Pumpkin. That's my cat, Pumpkin. It's a challenge that used to be weekly. It's now every other week. But we've already called it the weekly Web Dev Challenge everywhere, so we don't want to change it. And also we don't know what to change it to. Yes, so basically you get a challenge and complete it. This is the latest one. Light and dark theme. And then when you share your solution, we put them on the submissions page, yeah, which I've recently updated the placeholder take part in the challenge business here. Yes, my new gradient that I added. Yes, so if you want to see your name up in pixels, just complete the weekly Web Dev Challenge. Yes. This is the right one. Ooh. Irina. Hello, recently joined the platform. Extremely satisfied with it. Have a question. How can we save our code when we're given time to solve a challenge? Well, that ties in nicely with talking about the weekly Web Dev Challenge, actually, so I'll now show you. So here is a scrim. When you start typing, you will see down here, oh no, you can't see it because that's in the way. There you go. You will see down here that a cross and a tick appear. And if you hit that tick button, then that basically saves it. And you will be able to find it here in your notes section. So you go to courses, dashboard, and then notes. Alternatively, you can hit the 3 dots and open in a new page, which is the same as opening it from here. And then this URL is how you can share your solution. Yes. So that is how you share save and share notes on Scrimba. I hope that answers your question. Yes. Ooh, I'm now joined by Kedasha. If you're ready to come online, give me the thumbs up. Yes, perfect. Hello.
Hello. So sorry for being late.
No problem. No, I was just answering a few questions from the chat. So probably it gave people a chance to ask some random questions that had been on their mind. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, I had a really important sprint planning meeting that I couldn't leave. And I was just like, oh no. But I'm super happy to be here to talk to you today.
Yeah, very happy to have you here as well. Kedasha, and thank you for everyone who has joined us. Would you like to start by telling us a little bit about what it is you do now and how you got there, Kedasha?
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Kedasha. So I currently work as a front-end engineer in the FinTech space. So I work at a really large financial enterprise, working on their front-end applications for millions of clients.
Wow.
More specifically, I work on the internal design systems team. So I am on the team that builds out composable and reusable components for the entire organization to use. And it's been pretty fun. On the side, in my spare time, I create a lot of content for new and aspiring engineers on my Instagram page, specifically at It's ThatLadyDev, and it's been so fun growing that community.
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier. It's really cool to see that because Instagram isn't somewhere I would necessarily go for tech content.
Right.
So yeah, it's something new, and it's a nice thing to have on my Instagram timeline. Lots of people waving hello. Look at that. Yeah, perfect. So you came to tech from a different career.
Yes.
How long have you been in tech? How did you make that transition?
Oh, wow. So I got my first so I started working at my very first developer job January 2020. So last year. So I've been in the industry for a whopping 2 years. And so in 2019, I was working as what was I doing? I was doing like some admin work in the government sector. So previously, in my previous career, I was a social worker. And so doing the admin work, I was very bored. It was very boring. It was not mentally stimulating. And it also didn't pay well. And so I really wanted to figure out a way to change my career and do something that was a lot more fulfilling. So one day I was browsing on Instagram and I was browsing Instagram one day, and a finance blogger I followed, she posted one day that she taught herself how to code in like 9 months, and she got this amazing job offer. And I was like, what? How did you do that? And so I was curious enough to follow her blog posts, read everything. And through her, I learned about Free Code Camp and Codecademy. And that's kind of how I started my development journey, just by like scrolling on Instagram and clicking on a blog post. And so after teaching myself for like a few months, so the first time I saw code through the blog post was, I think, this December 2018. That's the first time I saw code. And so like December and January of 2019, I was really teaching myself, like HTML, CSS. And then I got to JavaScript and I just started crying. I was like, what is this? What is this madness? And that's when I started to look into coding boot camps. And so I went to a coding boot camp, started in March, quit my job. And by October 2019, I somehow received my first job offer. So that's kind of how I got into tech.
Wow. Yeah, that's an amazing story. And someone was asking, what's your Instagram handle? I have dropped that in the chat there. Actually, I will share on the screen just now the kind of things that Kedasha likes to share, because it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, here it is. So yeah, lots of tips, 6 ways to earn money as a software developer is the latest one. How I got my first dev job, highest paying tech set. So yeah, really good ways to find out lots of nice information there. So go and check it all
It's so weird all the time to see my face externally. I'm like, oh wait, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh, and something to know, I do have a giveaway going on right now. So I'm planning on giving away 3 Udemy courses. You can go to my profile and see how to enter.
Perfect. Yeah, check that out. That's interesting about you working as an admin in the government sector, because that's exactly what I did before I was in tech. Yeah. I was the person organizing the services for elderly people around my area. Yeah, that's what
I was doing payroll. So I was doing payroll. Don't ask me how I got into finance. I have no idea. But I was doing the payroll and some accounting, minor accounting, and I also did like my very first job was being a child protective investigator. So those people that go out with police officers to investigate whether or not a child is being abused, neglected, or abandoned. I was that person going into court trying to, speak up for the child. I was also a case manager. So like I would refer people to community services. Great work, but just very taxing emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've said that you've made the switch into FinTech. Can you tell us what that's like? Because I'm sure a lot of people are, considering a career in FinTech. How's it been for you? Is it what you expected?
No, it's not what I expected. So I think because I work at a very established company, so the company I work for, they're over 100 years old. So they're an enterprise. And so I think because I work at an established company versus like a FinTech startup, the culture is different and the dynamics are different. So working in FinTech, there are things I cannot say, things I cannot do. I can't talk about the specifics of my work. And I have to be really careful how I represent the company because my name is attached to that big brand. But I really like it. A part of the reason I chose to work in FinTech is because I really now love talking about money. And because like in 2018, I started learning a lot about personal financing, investing, saving, all that jazz. I had no idea about any of those things. And so I made it a goal to like work in the FinTech industry so I can be a part of the engineers that are like crafting those solutions to help people better manage their money. Working in FinTech has been really fun. I really enjoy it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that really resonates with me because I've only recently even started to think about personal finance. To be honest, it's just one of those things that someone else understands, but not me. So yeah, I totally understand why you would want to go in there. I'm glad you've been finding it enjoyable. Yes. If you have questions for Kedasha, please do drop them in the chat. I have one here from Angel. I too have a background in accounting. Would it be wise to look for tech jobs in accounting firms or companies?
Yes, I think one of the best things you can do is to leverage your current skills to get into the industry. So if you want to be a developer, work in FinTech, make a project specific to the finance industry. That way, when you're in interviews, you can directly reference that project that you're talking about, and it will be associated with the company that you're applying to because they're a finance company, right? They'll understand exactly what you're doing, and then they'll see that, okay, yeah, he can solve our problems too because look at what he built. I think leverage your skills that you have right now to get into the industry. And you also don't have to code to be in technology. There are so many non-technical roles. For example, our lovely host today, she's a community manager. And so she does a lot of community management work on behalf of Scrimba, and that's a tech role that is that is like non-coding. So like there is a lot of opportunity in tech, but yeah, definitely, especially like as an accountant, if you have a background in accounting, that means you probably have good logical reasoning, and that's very important to have as a programmer. So yeah, definitely look at finance companies and accounting companies.
Yeah, I agree. We always say to people who want to switch careers, don't write off the stuff you've done before. If you've been in education, maybe you can work in edtech, or if you've been in admin, for example, maybe you can work for a company or startup that's making some kind of admin tool. So yeah, just look for things in your area. Yes,
absolutely.
Sylvia asks, wow, Kedasha, congratulations about your change, but how did you get that first job? That is a very interesting question. What was that process like for you?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. I actually have a very detailed post on my Instagram page about this if you want to like get into the weeds. So I was very lucky. In 2019, I received a scholarship from Grace Hopper to attend their conference. And thankfully at the time, I lived in Orlando and I worked at the Orange County Convention Center. And the conference was happening in Orlando at the Orange County Convention Center in 2019. And so when I got that scholarship, I think it was around the beginning of my boot camp, like March, I made it my goal to be prepared for the conference that was happening in October 2019. And so I made sure to, pay close attention in my boot camp, and I made sure to plan out a project. So before I even graduated, I was working on my own personal project that would get me hired. So I enlisted a UX designer that was also in the bootcamp to have them build out a design for me that I could code. And I built a full stack budgeting application. And so by the time I got to the bootcamp, I had my resume updated because throughout the program, I was working with the career coach that I was assigned to get my artifacts updated. So I had my resume and I had my project and I was ready to be hired. And so when I went to the Grace Hopper conference, in October 2019, I didn't have any fun. I lived in the career hall, okay? And so I was hired, thankfully, because of the Grace Hopper conference. And I like to tell people that conferences are a great way to get hired because even now, like going to conferences on behalf of my company, I realize that companies, they're ready to hire you like on the spot at conferences. So like, don't sleep on conferences. That's how I was hired, honestly.
Perfect. Yeah. Denny says, financial literacy should be taught in schools alongside all of the traditional subjects. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Agree.
I completely agree with that. Irina asks, how ready do you feel for the job after the boot camp? And I would add to that, was that because of the boot camp or because of stuff you were doing yourself on the side?
Great question. I think it was a combination of both. So the bootcamp I went to, it's called Lambda School. And at the time, I don't know how they operate now, but in 2019, we worked in small teams. So it was almost like you were working at a real job, but just learning how to be a developer. So we would have stand-ups every day. We had a project manager. We knew exactly what the curriculum was. We knew what our deliverables were. And so because my bootcamp operated like a work environment, when I started working, I was already adjusted to the agile environment that my job uses. And so I was able to directly jump in from the very first week and submit my very first PR or merge request to get into like production. And so my bootcamp also taught me a lot about Git. A lot of bootcamps don't teach you about Git and version control. That is so important to know because when you start working, that's going to be your daily life. You're going to be in that terminal committing and pushing and merging and reviewing code. So I felt very, very prepared after bootcamp for my job. So much so, like a year and a half later, I got promoted to the new team I was on. So I think it was a combination of my bootcamp and also me being the person that I am. I'm a go-getter. And so I made sure that I was successful. Like nothing was going to get in my way.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? You only kind of get out how much you put in. So, yes.
Exactly.
Combination of all those things. Jesus junkie. I'm a horticulturalist switching. Well, maybe you could be, creating programs for, farms that time the watering or anything. But I really think that any career you currently have, you can apply that to tech because tech is everywhere. So,
100%. I recently discovered this program called, I think, Generations USA, and they offer free, when I say free, I mean legitimately free bootcamps for you to upskill. And it's not only for coding. I think they also have non-coding programs as well. If you go to my Instagram and click the link in my bio, I link you to like a list of like a lot of free programs that you can apply for. If you're a horticulturalist and you want to get into tech, girl, you can get into tech. Girl, boy, they, them. I apologize. I don't know your pronouns. You can also get into tech. There is a role for you, and we need a lot more people, a lot more women, a lot more diversity. Yes, that's exactly it. This lady, she, I don't know how she finds these programs, but she always does. And these are free programs that can get you started on your journey into tech. And so check it out.
Yeah, that's excellent. Go and check those ones out. Michael says, that's great. I should start going to more US conferences. Totally. August has a question. How can you stay motivated in order to be coding? As I've kind of lost that motivation at the moment.
Yeah, coding is tough. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And one thing I like to say now is cry it out, eat some fries, and get back to it. Which is my way of saying sometimes you do need to take a break and really evaluate, why am I doing this? Why do I want to learn how to code? What is my motivation? Because if you understand your reasoning, even when it gets really, really hard, you can take a break, but you will always be able to go back and say, this is why I'm doing it. Let me keep going. I also don't think it's about motivation. I think it's about discipline. One of my core beliefs is that consistency is the mother of success. And so even if you don't feel like doing it, even if it's 30 minutes, having that consistent habit day after day will allow you to become better, and you will reap the rewards. So try not to be motivated, try to be disciplined. Do you have a study schedule? Do you have study partners? Are you surrounding yourself with people who are also on this journey? The Code Newbie community is an excellent place to get connected with people.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. You don't actually have to be motivated. You just have to be disciplined, as you say. So I think it can be kind of demotivating to not be motivated, if that makes sense. But really, just remember that it doesn't matter if you don't actually want to do it. You just have to.
I also think about it like, like we all have jobs. And even if we don't feel like it, even if we're not motivated to go to work on a particular day, we still show up. Why? Why do we show up for companies and not show up for ourselves? So we need to apply that same level of like, I got to go to work because I have to eat. Apply it to coding. I got to learn to code because I want to eat more. So just kind of apply that same thinking to the things that you want to achieve for yourself.
Absolutely. Tom is saying, I was Googling tech commuters in my city, really couldn't find very much at all, mostly just aimed at uni students. I suppose my recommendation for that is, especially at the moment, maybe look at the ones that are not in person, so the online ones. If you can attend some of those. Yeah, check those out. Michael Limber, I hear a lot of buzzwords being dropped. Some people might not know what they are. Ew. Let us know which buzzwords. We'll try to shed some light. I would like to know from Kedasha. You've mentioned in your this page here that you made a lot of mistakes during your transition into tech. I was wondering if you could share what some of those mistakes were and how we can avoid them.
Yes. Don't learn more than one programming language. Please don't do it. It is not an effective way to learn. One of the things with coding is like once you learn one programming language really well, you're able to pick up another one pretty seamlessly because a lot of the same concepts and principles carries over to programming language. So don't learn more than one at a time. Don't learn JavaScript, Ruby, Python, and Java at the same time. No, you will not accomplish anything. Figure out what you want to do in terms of coding, like the jobs, look at the job description, write down what they're looking for, and start learning that one language that will help you achieve your goal. For example, I chose to be a front-end developer because from my research, I learned that it was a low barrier entry into the tech industry. And so what's required? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, with the JavaScript framework and maybe a CSS framework, and knowing how to interact with APIs. So the first thing I did was to learn HTML, then I went to CSS, then I went to SAS, and then I went to JavaScript, and I just cried every day after that. But don't learn more than one programming language at a time. Also, I didn't set a schedule when I was starting to learn, and it was very overwhelming. If you don't have a schedule, and if you don't allow your mind to create a pattern to be like, okay, at 5 p.m. every day, I'm going to sit at this table and I'm going to code for an hour, you're not going to accomplish your goals, right? You have to set a schedule. Also, what are your goals? What are you working towards? That's a mistake I see a lot of new programmers make. They're not setting goals. They're just learning to code. Why are you learning to code? What's the point? Coding is great, but it's very difficult. Why are you putting yourself through all that stress? Another mistake I made was not asking questions early and often. So even when I was in my bootcamp, I had access to so much help, but I felt so dumb a lot of times that I wasn't brave enough to ask the questions. But if you don't ask questions, you won't get answers and you'll just stay stuck. So ask questions early and often. An excellent place to ask questions is Twitter. The tech community on Twitter is very supportive, and it's free.
Yeah, that's great. I hadn't thought of that, actually. If I ever get stuck when I'm coding, I'd never thought to ask a question on Twitter. So, yes, excellent tip there. Michael, are there any budding areas other than FinTech and MedTech that are ripe for developers looking for an exciting career? I would say pretty much
everywhere.
More or less. Whatever it is you're interested in, I'm sure you can find a place in tech. If you're into music, or if you're into, I don't know, wood carving, probably. There will be all sorts of amazing things for you to do. Yes. On to my next question. What do you think a good first developer role looks like? And how can we be sure that we've found one and not a dodgy one?
Yeah, I think it starts with the job description. A lot of job descriptions are just like, we want someone that knows JavaScript, Python, Ruby, SQL, all the things, Drupal, all the things. And they're looking for a front-end developer. It's just like, so you don't understand what a front-end developer is. It starts with a job description. If a job is asking an entry-level junior developer for 3 years of experience, that's not a good place to go work, because they're going to give you a lot of work to do for very little pay. They're not looking for a junior developer. They're looking for a mid-level developer that they can pay the junior rate. A good job is one that offers mentorship and support. Look at the language of the job description. How does it feel to you? What do reviews online say about the company? Try to talk to people on LinkedIn. People are a lot more friendly than you think they are. So like, try to send them DMs and ask them questions. You may get responses even from people on Twitter. I think also a good job to look out for is one where you're able to learn on the job and make mistakes. Making mistakes as a junior developer is how, like, what not to do is going to stick in your head. And so you want to make sure that a job is able to offer that to you. When you're in an interview, what is the expectation for me in my role in the first 90 days? If they don't have an answer for you, that to me is a red flag, because it's like they don't know how to guide a junior engineer. Will you have a go-to person on their team? I think those are some good things to look out for in a first developer role. You really have to ask targeted questions when you're in the interview to make sure, or to at least try to make sure, that you're going to a good and supportive environment.
Absolutely agree with that one. Sylvia says, I'm doing the 100 Days of Code challenge. Nothing new, but it helps me with staying motivated. That's an excellent point. And it's a good way for people to find tech Twitter, because we talk about tech Twitter, but if you're not already in it, how do you actually find it? Checking out the hashtag 100 Days of Code is a good place to start, or you can follow the topic, software engineering, front-end development, and Scrimba. Follow Scrimba. That will definitely get you into tech. Yes. So talking a bit about the job application process. Many people worry that they're going to get screened out just at the AI stage, perhaps because they don't have a background in tech, they don't have a CS degree, or any other reason. Do we have any tips you can share on how to avoid that?
Yeah, one of the best things to do, and this is like what all the resume people say online, but it's true. You have to craft your resume according to each role that you're applying for. Because you know what a recruiter told me once? A recruiter told me, okay, if you're not going to spend the time to craft your resume according to each job description, I'm not going to take the time to look at it and figure out what your skills are. So you have to make it obvious that you are right for the job. Keywords are important. If they're looking for a front-end developer, make the title on your resume front-end developer. I actually have a really great example of a junior developer resume on my Instagram page. I shared my very first resume on my page, exactly how it was and why it got me hired. And you have to, keywords are super important, listing out all your skills on your resume so the robot is able to pick up those keywords and match it with the job description. Very important. It's one thing to understand, ATS is just an algorithm, right? So it's trying to match the job description with your resume to see if they align. And so you kind of just have to hack the system and make sure that your resume is optimized. I like to use a platform called Credle.io. That's Creedle.io. It is a free resume maker, and it will make your resume like 1 page long, and it will help you to optimize it for ATS systems.
Yeah, I've probably typed something wrong because I'm getting a site in German.
Oh.
Let's try that again.
Am I able to? I don't know if I'm able to send you anything.
Oh no, I think I found it now.
Okay.
Yes, craft a better resume.
Yes. I love that site. It's so easy.
Yeah. So there's that link there that will help you to optimize your resume. Some fabulous tips from Kedasha there. So let's assume everything has gone swimmingly. How can career switchers especially, but people in general as well, negotiate their salary effectively? Do you have any tips on that front?
So I saw this question and I was like, beats me. So honesty here, I am not the best negotiator. I'm still learning to navigate those waters. I think it's because I grew up very poor, and I think I still have a lot of mentality around money that's not healthy because I grew up so poor. So I have no idea. One thing I will say is to follow this financial blogger, her first 100,000. She speaks a lot about salary negotiations and money and how to, handle those things. So I would definitely tap her resources. I'm not the best person for that sort of thing.
Excellent. There is the link in the chat there.
Yes.
Yeah. What I have heard from, we've had a recruiter on beforehand on the stream, and actually we've had 2 recruiters, and they've both said if they ask you what your salary expectation is and you say an exact amount, then you've kind of blinked first. So don't do that. Make them blink first.
Right.
Yeah. Perfect. I suppose before you get the job offer, you might go, well, almost certainly would go, to a technical interview. What can people actually expect from a technical interview, and how can they prepare effectively?
Yes, the technical interview is that scary interview that we're all so terrified of. One thing to know from technical interviews is know what they're looking for. So solving the problem is not the goal in technical interviews. Surprise, surprise. This is coming directly from like 2 of my managers. They're not looking for you to solve the problem. They're looking to see how you approach the problem. So during technical interviews, it's very important to write down your thought processes first. Call it pseudocoding, call it like writing paragraphs, however it is that you think. Be sure to write it down explicitly, like while you're sharing your screen, literally write it down. This is what I'm thinking the problem is asking. Oh, I think I'm going to do this first. Oh, and then I can do this. Write it down. That way the interviewer knows that you know how to solve the problem or how to approach solving the problem. And so like once you write down all your thoughts, then you start to like try to figure out how to solve it. But the most important part is to demonstrate how you think. I can't emphasize how important that is. It's so important to show your thought process, because if you're sitting there in silence and you're thinking in your head and the interviewer has no idea what's going on, they're going to think you don't know what you're doing.
And even if you get to the correct answer, there's no kind of proof that it wasn't just a fluke.
Exactly. There's no proof that it's not something you've done before and you just spit it out. The important thing is to show how you think.
Yeah. And also, I suppose, how you communicate
Yes.
with other members of the team. Yeah.
Exactly.
So bear that in mind for the old technical interviews. Candice, should new devs learn about Web 3.0 and cryptocurrency if they're interested in the fintech space? Yeah. What's your experience been like?
Great question. Wrong person. So I know nothing about Web3, cryptocurrency, and I've only just started looking into like what blockchain is. And so I think if you have an interest in Web3 and cryptocurrency, of course, go ahead and learn about it. I can't say whether or not you should learn it because I am not familiar with it.
Yeah. So I suppose the answer is not necessarily. You can get there without it.
Yes.
If you're interested, then go for it. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about problem solving and learning complex concepts, because you mentioned in a few places that you kind of have some tricks on how we can tackle that. So how do you tackle learning new complex concepts?
So what do? I like to do research on the topic. So what I would do is, let's say I want to learn about how to use the use state hook in React. That's pretty complicated stuff going on in the React framework. What I would do is I would go to google.com and I would say how to use the use state hook in React. And then I will grab all the blogs that come up that shows me how to do it, pop it into my little notepad thing, and then I would go through each blog and read it and make notes on all the things that stuck out to me. That way I know how to understand it. And then I will share that concept with my community, because the best way to learn is to teach. So I would go to my page and I would do like a thing and say, hey, this is what I'm learning, blah, blah, blah. And if they can understand it, that means I also understand it. And that's kind of how I approach understanding complex things. I just look for resources, blog articles, posts, anything that I can find about it, and kind of break it down in that manner.
That's a good tip. Looking for a lot of different resources, probably quite effective, because they all explain it in different ways.
Exactly.
So hopefully all the different explanations kind of come together and help you out.
Don't sleep on the dev.to platform. There are so many awesome blog posts there, and even just people's personal blogs, like developers' personal blogs will come up a lot in Google searches. So those are also great to read. And then, when you learn that complex concept, write a blog post yourself about it and start blogging.
Yeah, which answers Sylvia's question. Would you say writing your own blog helps?
Yes, Sylvia, the best way to learn is to teach. And that is one of the main reasons I started sharing content on Instagram, is because I realized late last year, December 2020, I realized, wow, Kedasha, you really don't feel confident talking about technical topics. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm just going to start talking about technical topics. And that's when I started sharing content on Instagram, and my confidence has exploded. Let me tell you, that's how I'm able to do live streams like this and others that I've done, and do podcasts, because I feel a lot more confident in my skills and in my journey as a technologist.
Yeah, it's also great practice for explaining your code, either in a job or even in an interview. So,
and then you can attract a lot of jobs to you, because if people see you sharing your technical knowledge and writing about it, and they like your writing styles, they'll invite you to apply, for jobs.
Yeah. And is there a certain level you think you need to be at, or a certain amount of knowledge you need to have before you start writing blogs? Or do you think start from the beginning?
Start from the beginning. When you have a beginner's mindset, you're better able to explain things. to people who know nothing about coding, and even to like senior people, because a lot of times when you gain the experience in the field, you kind of lose that beginner's mindset, and then you start talking at a very high level. And if you're trying to explain something to a junior engineer, that high level is not going to be helpful. They need the low level. And so you're in a perfect position to share your knowledge.
Yeah. Also, don't forget that some people reading, they might be a higher level than you in some respects, but they might not know much about the technology that you're writing about. So they might be a senior developer, but they don't know much CSS.
Exactly.
So yes, totally. Do it. Michael Imber, I do the same research, but I filter for only Stack Overflow results.
I love it.
Yeah. I would say maybe expand it from time to time, because Stack Overflow is good, but you might be pleasantly surprised. Perfect. I would like to know how, this is kind of related to learning complex new concepts, but how do you approach solving coding problems? So if you find yourself completely stuck, what's your go-to kind of, approach of dealing with that?
Yeah, I have some notes on this for my own personal use, because I really struggle. I struggle with code challenges. Let me just be honest right here. Struggle. I don't get the point of them. I get it. It helps with problem solving and figuring out how to solve, like, I guess, puzzle type problems. Helps to massage my muscle. I don't like the massage. It hurts too much. So I did write down some steps that I use personally on how to solve coding problems. So I like to say that you need to ensure that you understand the problem, because it is the most important part of getting to your solution. If you don't understand what the question is asking, you're out of luck. There isn't going to be any way you're going to figure it out. So make sure you understand what it's asking. And how I do this is I look at the problem and I literally read it over and over again, and I write down things that I kind of pick out from the problem that I'm trying to solve. And so ask yourself these questions when attempting to solve a code challenge. What data type are you being asked to return? What should be included in that data type? How do I get the result that's needed? Many times you'll need to like loop through some data to get your desired results, whether that's a while loop, or for loop, a do while loop. All those things could be helpful here. And so you need to make sure that you understand what data type you're being asked to return, and like, how do I get to that data type? So like, once I understand the data type, okay, so I need to return a string. Okay, what do I need to return the string from? Oh, from the input that they're giving me. Okay, how do I get the string from the input? Oh, I need to loop through the input, right? So like, you kind of just have to break the problem down step by step. And so like, after you access like whatever data you need, then you need to return it the way that they're asking you to return it. I'm planning a more detailed post about how to approach coding problems. I haven't finished it yet, but approaching coding problems, it's so difficult. And I think a lot of the times we struggle with it is because I know for me personally, because I went to a boot camp, I don't really have that foundational knowledge about data structures and algorithms. And so that's something I'm working on, because I know that when you have a better understanding of the data structures and the algorithms, the common ones, you'll be better able to approach code challenges better. You'll be better able to approach code challenges. That was a mouthful, but yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And this session will be recorded. Well, it is being recorded, so you can check back later if you want to have another look at Kedasha's step-by-step process there. Very helpful. Interesting point from Michael Imber. Many people have no desire of blogging their thoughts, as it can be a permanent record of how wrong/uninformed they were at that point. I would say to that, if you did blog something and you later found out, oh, what I said was totally wrong, that's an opportunity to make another blog post and say, I said this 3 months ago, I now know this. So that's what I would do. And I think if you live in fear of saying the wrong thing or whatever, then it's going to be difficult to progress. So that would be my take on it.
I agree with that 100%. And it's important to remember that we're humans, and as humans, we grow. We experience growth to every phase of our lives. And so if we believe that the sky is blue 10 years ago, and then we realize 10 years later, oh my, wow, the sky is actually purple, we can just update our thinking process and let our readers know, hey, I realized the sky is purple because of blah, 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 blah. And so I think it's an opportunity to demonstrate how much you've grown as a person.
Yeah, it's also an opportunity for yourself to see that progression.
Yes.
It's actually quite nice to look back on it over time. So yeah, that can be a negative, but it can also be a positive, I would say. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Michael says, totally. And you can add an edit onto the old post with a link to the new one. Yeah, that's the beauty of blogging, isn't it? It's not like the old days when it was a physical piece of paper, but you can just update it. So yeah, brilliant. Candice, how different is preparing for an interview from your real day-to-day tasks as a developer? Yes, excellent question.
So different. It's so different. So technical interviewing is a skill because a lot of companies still do those wild whiteboarding challenges. And so you have to get the Bible cracking the coding interview, and you have to study it, and you have to practice those problems and do leak codes and hacker ranks. Meanwhile, when you get a job, especially for me as a front-end developer, I'm building components in React. I am not trying to figure out why the box fit into the circle and how to put that into Python code. So the technical interview is very different from the everyday job. Unless you interview for companies that don't hire with whiteboarding challenges, and a lot more companies are moving towards that, your interview is going to be very different from your job. There is a great repo from GitHub. If you Google hiring without whiteboards GitHub, you'll see a repo that lists companies that hire without those weird algorithmic challenges. They may ask you to build a component if it's a front-end thing. They may ask you to do something with APIs if it's for back-end, but they ask you job-specific questions in the technical interview.
Oh, that makes a nice change, I'm sure. Yeah, no, I agree completely that not only technical interviews, actually, I think all interviews really are a skill, but yeah, especially on the technical side. So check out that book, recommendation, Cracking the Coding Interview. Yes. And hell, visual learning works best for me. So writing things down on a piece of paper to simplify things helps to put the pieces together. Yes, absolutely. Some people like to use a whiteboard or a physical piece of paper, or even just typing out what's going on can definitely clear things up. Yes, perfect. Asking for help. You mentioned earlier, Kedasha, that you wish you had asked more questions and asked them earlier. Can you tell us a bit about that and what difference you think it could have made?
Yes, I didn't find it, but I have a post about how to ask for help effectively. The reason you want to ask for help early and often is because, think about it, if you're stuck on a problem and you're just like, oh, I'm going to figure it out, 2 hours later, you're still there, oh, I'm going to figure it out, Sometimes you need a different perspective that an outside person can offer to you that you've never thought about. And so how do you ask for questions? How do you ask for help? You say, hey, name, hey, person name, I'm having a difficulty with problem, and I really don't know what else I can do. I've tried XYZ, and I have read the following article, but I still can't seem to figure out what's wrong. Are you able to help me get unstuck? If you have a, what is it called? If you have like an error in the console, take a screenshot and also send that to the person so they have some context. You always want to provide context around the problem that you're having, because you can't assume that the person knows what you're talking about. So that's kind of how I ask for help to get
Perfect.
unstuck.
Yes, that's the same advice we give over on Scrimba's Discord. So
nice.
Yeah, what you've done, or what the problem is, what you've tried, and ideally send some screenshots.
Yes.
Denny. Lots of talk on tech Twitter about people trying to change the interview process. Yes, absolutely. Let's hope it goes in the right direction soon. But definitely check out that link where you can find the companies who are already doing nice job applicable interviews. That would be perfect. Well, we have only 6 minutes left, so if you have any more questions you want to ask, drop them in the chat now, and I will try to ask them. I thought of one earlier. I've been offered a job, not me, but imaginary me, but I don't agree with the company's mission or values.
Oh,
what now?
Don't take the job.
Yes.
I would not take the job. So like if I can't confidently speak about the company I work for, I cannot work for that company because it doesn't align with my values. You have to make sure that your values also align with the company values in order to be successful or be comfortable working in a role. Because think about it, our jobs take up a lot of our lives.
Yeah.
And so like you don't want to feel like you have to cower whenever you go to work.
Yeah. Hold out for one that does align with your values. I would totally agree. And here is that link. Hiring without whiteboards. I will drop that in the chat as well. So if, like I imagine 99% of people, you want to avoid the whiteboarding interview, check this out. If anyone in the chat has done a whiteboarding interview, let us know how it went. I would be very interested to hear all about that. Yes, perfect. I would love to know a little bit more about how, well, I suppose what your day-to-day kind of setup is in the fintech industry. If you're allowed to tell us kind of what your day in the life looks like.
Oh, my days are very boring. A lot of my community members ask me this too, but my days are very boring. I wake up, I try to work out. I don't always do. If I'm feeling unwell, I don't. I have breakfast, and then I go to my calendar, my work calendar, to see if I have any important meetings, like at the top of the hour, like at 9 a.m. That I need to get ready for. If I don't, then I kind of just like take my time and get ready for the day. Once I'm ready, I make a list of the items that I would like to accomplish for that day. I look at my tickets, and then I look at the work that I was doing the previous day. And then I just stare at the codes for 6 to 8 hours. It's a lot of coding. It's a lot of meetings. And then, of course, like in between those, like during my lunch hour, I do post on Instagram and I try to engage with my community during my lunch break. And then I get back to work. But honestly, my days are very boring. It's nothing exciting. It's a lot of staring at the screen. It's a lot of meetings with my manager or meetings with my teammates. It's boring. It's nothing. It's just coding.
One thing you mentioned that JavaScript was a struggle for you when learning to code. How do you feel about it now? And yeah, how did you overcome that struggle, I guess?
I guess I'm still struggling.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
JavaScript is just, I don't know. It's just a struggle. I think one of my main problems with JavaScript is there are so many ways to accomplish the same thing. And so because there isn't a standard pattern, it's too much. It's too much. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I think also like learning how to use JavaScript on your own to just build something out is also a struggle. I haven't overcome my struggle with JavaScript. I kind of just move through it, you know. I kind of just move through it, honestly.
That is a good point. I think maybe it's a struggle that you don't really need to overcome. You just need to learn to live with the difficult relationship with JavaScript. Yes,
exactly.
Ryan's asking, do you have any advice for older students and the first tech job, technically, culturally, academically, etc.? I am career changing now and I'm 50. Well, this goes back to what we were saying earlier, which I think is to use your experience and the skills you've got from your previous or your current industry and see how you can apply that to tech. So look, for the example we gave earlier was, if you're in education now, maybe you can think about joining edtech companies. If you're an accountant, maybe you can join FinTech. And don't write everything off that you've already done, is my advice.
Yep. The same advice applies to older student, younger student, all students.
Yeah, absolutely. And to finish off, Michael has shared his experience of a whiteboarding interview. I had one, been asked to code a multiplication function for a junior role. So like mult 2, 3 should output 6. Interesting task, need to check for negatives, zeros, etc. Leads to a good conversation. Well, that sounds like a positive experience.
I think that's a pretty good question, though, to ask a junior developer to do. I think the questions I have an issue with are like those HackerRank and LeetCode type puzzle confusing ones. I'm just like, what are you asking me to do? What is the point of this question? It gets me so upset. It's like, what is the reason?
I agree with you. I think this is a reasonable question that you could see that you might actually do something like this in the job.
Exactly.
So, yes, perfect. Thank you for sharing that experience, Michael. And thank you, Kedasha, for joining us. Lots of really valuable information. I can't believe the hour is up already. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thanks ever so much for coming along. And thank you to everyone who joined us and posted your questions in the chat. Or if you didn't, if you just watched, that's great as well. Thanks for coming, and I'll see all of you next time.